Welcome back to the channel, everyone. It's your pal NOMZ here, and I just saw Avatar: The Way of Water. So I'll give you a brief rundown of the movie without spoiling anything, and then I'll let you know when spoilers are coming, and then it's time to piss off, alright? Everyone got it? Cool. Let's begin. So, I don't know about you guys, but I'm a long-time Avatar fan. I've been waiting for this movie for 13 years, and yes, you know there's been millions of us waiting for this movie. Take the bandwagon dick out of your mouth and acknowledge that, okay? This film has had a very strange climate surrounding it in the past few months leading up to its release. There's been a lot of talk on the internet about the people wanting this movie to flop, and people saying no one cares about this movie, and people trying their damnedest to make mountains out of molehills for everything that comes out of James Cameron's mouth, which I imagine has influenced quite a few people before going to see The Way of Water. I personally was not one of those people because I, quite frankly, am allergic to bullshit, including but not limited to the whole Avatar is this movie and that movie and this movie and that movie fucking argument that people love to make the rounds with on the internet. And I'll tell you right off the bat, the biggest reason why you fucking stupid, moronic bandwagon fucks just say it's Dances with Wolves and Pocahontas in space. You know what? I'm going to tell you the secret right now as to why all these fucking shallow pieces of shit like to say Avatar is this and Avatar's that and point out how derivative it is as a story. You know why they do it? Because they got nothing else to bitch about, and they fucking know it, and it eats them up inside. Seriously, if you had something better to criticize, that would be at the forefront of your fucking criticism, but it's not, because you know Avatar's a fucking good movie. And I personally believe Avatar, I consider the first one to be a classic. It's a high bar for The Way of Water to clear, but I was hyped as fuck out of my mind for this movie. It's been what I've been most hyped out of my mind for all fucking year, in fact. So, is The Way of Water a good fucking movie? You bet your goddamn ass it is. It was fucking banger. It was beautiful, gorgeous, fantastic, beautiful story, beautiful visuals. Sound was top fucking tier. Not just the soundtrack, but the sound design was fucking drool worthy. It was delicious. Anyway, I did see the movie in 3D as well. 3D was eye-gasmic. It was fucking amazing. I want to see it again in 3D. It was fantastic. So, yes, if you're just looking to go into Avatar to be entertained by spectacle and have a banger fucking time and see a clean as fuck movie, you won't want to leave the theater with how good these visuals are. I am not exaggerating. This movie was 3 hours and fucking 14 minutes, and it left me wanting more. That is saying something. Honestly, I kind of hope 3D becomes a trend again, and one of the reasons why Avatar sells so fucking well is because it's the one fucking movie series where it's designed from the ground up to be enjoyed in 3D, whereas most 3D movies, you know, most studios don't give a shit about 3D or doing it justice. They just throw it on as some kind of gimmick. Cameron actually gives a shit. That's why Avatar was so well received back in 2009, not just because of its classic fucking story. And yes, Avatar does tell a classic story. That's why people gravitate towards it so easily. That's why it's so well beloved. Cameron cares about the 3D, integrates it into his fucking movie from the ground up, and it's the first fucking movie, well, one of the only fucking movies anyway, to actually tell a good story and take itself seriously as a 3D movie, and that's why it works so fucking well. So if you're looking to go into Avatar: The Way of Water and be given the same surreal fucking cinema experience as you were given back in 2009, go for it. It's money well spent. It's already better than just about anything else I've fucking seen this year. Shits all over anything Marvel. Shits all over anything DC. Okay, well, the Batman was pretty fucking good. It's up there. Top Gun Maverick is the closest thing, and I mean, that movie, in terms of spectacle, was something else as well. If I have to toss up which had the better story, I'd have to say, yes, it would have to be Avatar: The Way of Water, and better most everything else as well. I heard some early impressions douchebags say this movie had terrible dialogue. This movie had fucking excellent dialogue. I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. I was in a packed fucking theater. The dialogue was zinger as fuck. Loved it. Flowed very well. Even the native dialogue was great too. I understood it. No one got confused. Some of the names got a little bit confusing, but you kind of understand who is called what by the end. At least for the Sully family. There's a couple of names that still escape me, but then again, those fucking names aren't exactly easy to pronounce. So, cut Cameron some slack there, would ya? All the characters you need to know shit about, alright? The story is centered around Jake, Sully, Neytiri, and their family. Cameron has made no secrets about that. It does exactly that. And it's a pretty good fucking story. You really gravitate towards the family by the end. Jake is awesome. He's as good as he's ever been. He's the same, cocky, badass, optimistic, fearless fucking Marine jarhead that he was in the first movie, but he's fully embraced the Na'vi now. He's been with them for 10 years, and, even though he is part of the Na'vi people and has adopted their customs, he hasn't lost his attitude. And it shows because a lot of his attitude and mannerisms have rubbed off on his offspring. Cameron, I think, said this in an interview that Jake is going to be the asshole dad. He is the asshole dad. He's the stern, tough as nails, hard as fuck Marine dad that, probably give most teenagers nightmares, but he's also cool as fuck and completely awesome at the same time. He's tough but fair, stern but encouraging. Neytiri is just as awesome as she's ever been. She plays more of a mother figure in this, and if I did have something to tweak about this movie, I would say I think I would have wished Jake and Neytiri got a little bit more screen time. They are kind of pushed to the back a little bit to kind of make way for this new generation of up-and-coming Na'vi hunters. The children of Jake and Neytiri are given a lot of spotlight in this, and that could be hit or miss for some, admittedly. One of the things I was quite puzzled by the trailers, and I immediately did not like this from the trailers, and I was very fearful about this, was how Cameron was going to bring back actors Stephen Lang and Sigourney Weaver. We've seen them in the trailers. Stephen Lang and Sigourney Weaver are now avatars. And I was like, how the fuck is that supposed to work? Because, spoilers for Avatar 2009, they both die. And it's like, does Cameron just... And also Giovanni Ribisi was, mentioned to be making returns for the second and third Avatar. And I was like, how the fuck's Cameron going to pull this off? What's he going to do? I reserved judgment because no one knows this world better than James Cameron. He created it. So whenever you think of, what's the answer to this, Cameron? Or, oh, this isn't explained. Or, haha, gotcha, Cameron. Haha, you're such a fucking dumb shit. Like, shut the fuck up. Cameron knows this world better than you. So don't jump the gun on shit that you don't know and that Cameron has not explained yet. Alright? People say, oh, mystery box, J.J. Abrams. No. J.J. Abrams took Star Wars from George Lucas. George Lucas understood Star Wars. J.J. Abrams did not. Cameron understands Pandora. You don't know shit yet. Just watch and fucking absorb. That being said, I was really taken aback. I was like, how the fuck is Cameron going to bring these actors back? And is he doing it just because he's, nepotistic? He plays favorites with these actors. He wants to bring them back? No, there's reasonably good explanations. I thought they were a tad contrived, but I accepted them. They are somewhat explained. Granted, the character of Kiri is actually still quite a mystery, but I can see where they're going with her, the circumstances surrounding her birth and everything, her connection to Sigourney Weaver's character from the first Avatar movie. There's a lot of religious implications and inspirations there that I'll get to when I talk about spoilers, which is going to be momentarily, so again, you've been warned. Stephen Lang's character, on the other hand, I think is a tad more contrived with how he comes back, but again, it is explained in the movie, and again, I thought it was fine. A little far-fetched, but not impossible. Let's talk about the whales in this fucking movie, because this is where people are really going to go to town on Avatar. It's Free Willy in space now! But how is it? It was Dances with Wolves. I was confused. People were saying it's Dances with Wolves, now they're going to say it's Free Willy or Little Mermaid in space. And plus they're going to say, oh, it's just Titanic again for the third act. Yes, there's a lovely callback sequence to Titanic. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but there is definitely some Titanic influence there. And people are going to say, James Cameron ripped off Titanic. How the fuck can James Cameron rip off himself, you ditwit? Holy shit. Authors and movie makers quote their past films and productions and works all the fucking time. So put a cork in it, alright? That's fine. He can reference his older movies. The final fight in Avatar 2009 was a reference to the final fight from Aliens 1986. Cameron's allowed to do that because he did Aliens 1986. Jesus Christ. But again, let's talk about the whales. People are going to say the whales is far-fetched and stupid. I disagree. People led me to believe that humanity had dedicated their entire fucking stay on Pandora to hunting whales. That's bullshit. It's only a small faction of human hunters on Pandora that are dedicated to hunting whales. And yes, they found a new resource that helps humanity in other ways than the unobtainium did. And apparently they put a little bit of a halt on the unobtainium and mining operations going forward. Humanity are there on Pandora and they're here to stay. And one thing the movie makes clear from the get-go is that they aren't there to do peace talks and interact with the natives and establish, a coexistence. They're there to fucking take over. They come back in force and fucking full-blown fucking invasion, and they want that Pandora. They can taste it. They're not interested in fixing Earth. Earth is dying. They're saying, fuck it. Let's migrate to over here and let's fucking take over. That's what's happening now. That's raising the stakes, and that, I feel, is a logical progression from what would have happened after the events of Avatar 2009. It's like, alright, cool, they kicked us off. They don't want to play nice. Let's fuck them up. So humanity goes back, and I'd imagine there's a lot of instances where the anti-Avatarists that hate the blue monkeys will, I don't know, they might get a hard-on or two from what happens in Avatar: The Way of Water. There's a lot of blue people deaths. Shh. Anyway. But yeah, ultimately, the story is about family, and again, there's a lot of new additions to the story, a lot of new mysteries, which I appreciated. A lot of them aren't fully fleshed out in this installment, which kind of bugs me, but it's definitely going somewhere, and the ending to Avatar: The Way of Water really got me excited for the third one. There is a couple of things I wasn't too big of a fan of, but I can't talk about them without going too heavily into spoiler territory. If I had to sum it up, first act of Avatar: The Way of Water, incredible. Up until the end of the first act, where it bleeds into the second act, and it's between the end of the first act and halfway through the second act that the movie kind of drags a bit. From the halfway point through the second act to the end of the third act, and the ending of the movie, pretty much non-stop fucking enthralling fucking Avatar. I'll tell you that. So, do I think it's better than the first Avatar movie? I think aspects of The Way of Water are better than the first Avatar movie, but again, I consider the first Avatar film to be an all-time classic, and again, it's a high bar for me. If I had to pick, I'd say on the whole, I still prefer the first Avatar movie. But again, Avatar: The Way of Water is up there, and there are parts of it that exceed the first movie, and I will say the action is sure as shit fucking one of them. The visuals, obviously the sound design, I think all of them are better in The Way of Water. I do think the score is a little bit better in the first Avatar. There is a lot of remixes and reusing of the same scores from the first Avatar in The Way of Water, which were nice callbacks, but I thought it was a little bit too heavy-handed. I would have liked to have heard some more original scores. Rest in peace to James Horner. Unfortunately, he's not with us anymore. Dude made an excellent soundtrack for the first Avatar movie. I don't give a fuck what the Sideways video says, alright? Avatar 2009 had an amazing soundtrack. Ironic or not, it was fucking banger, so I don't give a shit. But yes, on the whole, Avatar: The Way of Water, as a longtime Avatar fan, if you're also an Avatar fan, you will be pleased. You will love it. You may even love it more than the first one. If you're a casual Avatar goer and just want an experience, you too will have your socks blown right the fuck off. If you have an attention span, for God's sake, if you have a fucking attention span, you will enjoy this movie. If you're not looking to clap at fucking jokes like a fucking seal every 5 seconds, like the common day fucking Marvel moviegoer. Avatar is Dances with Wolves. Yeah, go sit on Marvel's derivative dick for the next decade, you loser. Holy fucking shit. If Avatar is derivative and that makes it bad, then what the fuck does that make Marvel, for goodness sake? Anyway. Look, don't get me wrong, I got no problem with the detractors of Avatar who simply dislike or even hate the original movie, even though I personally cannot fathom why they have such a distaste for it. Hell, I only wish they could see the film I do and have the same connection to it and experience as I did. But to each their own. Like, those aren't the people I'm showing hostilities towards in this video. Hell, 2 of my best friends are not Avatar fans. This movie is not going to turn them into Avatar fans, and so they simply have no interest in it, and that's fine. They've moved on with their lives. Which I'm sure is true for most detractors of Avatar. However, that is not my issue. It's the vocal minority of absolute online fucking brainlets who are hopping on this brainless bandwagon trying to tear it down based on complete and utter fucking nonsense because they want to feel like one of the cool kids in school and are seeking validation from this edgy new trend that's become more prominent on the internet in recent years. Look, you do you, dipshits, but those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. Just remember, you mindlessly shat all over George Lucas for how many fucking years? And then after Star Wars went to Disney and became complete and utter shit, you were begging for the original creator to come back. You want to shit all over James Cameron? Because ha ha ha, blue people suck, and it's Dances with Smurfs in space? Just look what happened to Terminator. Keep going the way you're going, and you're gonna see an actual bad Avatar film once he's driven away from this passion project that he loves, just like George Lucas was, and Cameron leaves it in the hands of Disney and its corporate executives. Just bear that in mind, but if you genuinely didn't connect with the first Avatar movie, this movie ain't gonna convert you into an Avatar fan either. You'll enjoy the experience for what it is, at least in terms of spectacle, I'm sure, but it's not trying to work miracles based on your taste. This movie wasn't made for you. This movie was made for Avatar fans, and Avatar fans will be pleased. Okay? End of the non-spoiler section. Spoiler time, everybody. 3, 2, 1, you have been warned. Get the fuck out. Right. So, what did I dislike about this movie? Well, again, end of the first act, beginning of the second act, it does drag a tear because it basically turns from a hunt or be hunted action fest to like a Great Barrier Reef documentary, and I understand that's part of the purpose of The Way of Water, to get you into the world of the aquatic ecosystem of Pandora and introduce you to the water people, the Metakayan, or I can't pronounce. I'm sorry, these Avatar names are not easy to pronounce, alright? And I've only seen the movie once, cut me some slack. They bring in the Sully family, and the Sully family has to earn their keep. They're forest people, they're being introduced to water people. I love that Cameron differentiates the tribes and the customs and how they look a little bit different because their biology is designed to survive better in the water. They have stronger tails to help them swim, whereas the forest people don't. They have thinner tails and they're built more for, jungle treading and flying high in the sky and all that jazz. So that was pretty interesting, but again, it does kind of drag a little bit because, again, they're learning the way of water, and I understand it's the premise for the whole movie, but at the same time, it does take away from certain other aspects of the movie that were, I thought, a little bit more interesting, like what was going on with the humans, what was going on with Kiri and her birth, and the mystery behind her and Grace and her connection to Awa. But that was kind of saved for later in the movie, where it was kind of brought more to the forefront and is most likely definitely going to be explored in the third Avatar film. But again, that's and a more well-rounded view of what's happening in current day Pandora was lost because we spent a little bit too much time getting to know the water people in that section of the movie. Late in the first act, when Jake makes the decision to leave the Hallelujah Mountains and venture out into the water islands so he and his family can go into hiding, some people might say this is like a betrayal of his character and that he just ditched the Na'vi and ran off with his family to be selfish. Yeah, he is being selfish, but Jake isn't inherently, at his heart, he is a selfish character at times. He knew long before humans destroyed Home Tree that the Na'vi weren't going to make a deal, but he couldn't help his inner nature to just enjoy the bliss of life. And in the decades since the first Avatar movie, he has enjoyed that bliss. He had the happiest time of his life being with Neytiri, having a family, playing with them, nurturing them, loving them, being married, just having the forest at their beck and call. It was complete and utter bliss. And then when humanity came back, he spent the next year fighting them until Quaritch was resurrected, which, again, I'll get into in a second. And then they start coming after his family, and once he has a really near-death experience with his family and his children are held hostage, he's like, no, we gotta pack up and leave. They're after me. If I stay here, they're gonna hunt our children are gonna be in danger. If I stay here, these people will be in danger, so we need to leave to protect them. I'll pass on my clan leader mantle to someone else, and they can take over, and we'll go on our separate ways. They won't hurt. At least in Jake's mind, he thinks that they will, at least for the most part, leave that part of the Omaticaya alone if he's not there, and of course they can't find him if he has disappeared. Not to mention, again, for more selfish reasons, he's trying to keep his family safe, and he even tells the water people and the water leaders clan that he doesn't want to fight anymore. He's done with war. He just wants to be a family man and keep going. People will say this is too rushed and whatever, and I will agree just a tiny bit and say it was a tad rushed. I wish they nuanced that a bit better. But you get it. You fucking get it, and don't pretend you do not get it. And that's brought to the forefront by the end of the movie when he realizes, especially after the death of his son, spoilers, but yes, his son dies, Natayan, who I'll also talk about, but by the end, Jake realizes that he can't protect his family by running. He has to fight. Whether it's now or in years from now, the fight is not going to stop, and he has to protect them the only way he knows how, which is to fight. That's a character arc. He was happy to fight when it was just him and Neytiri, but when he became a father, he became still, again, selfish. He has a selfish nature to him, but he's also a father now, and being a father changes you, and that's kind of the point of Avatar: The Way of Water and how Jake's character now is and how he grows throughout the movie. That being said, let's talk about Quaritch and the new generation of Avatars who have come from Earth to track down and kill Jake. It is mentioned throughout the movie that these Avatar bodies were grown with the memories and backup personality drives of the Marines that were stationed on Pandora after Jake had already established a rapport with the Na'vi. They basically saw how well Jake did, And there's even a line in the first Avatar movie where Quaritch is like, a Marine in an Avatar body gives me the fucking goosebumps. It is. It's a potent mix. Quote unquote. So, again, it wasn't really mentioned in the first Avatar film. And again, that's why I say this is somewhat contrived, but not unbelievable. They basically said, hey, we should use that and let's back up our memory drives and send them back to Earth. And if we need them, we can put these fucking memory drives into the Avatar bodies. And these Avatar bodies will have our personalities and our skills and our memories and basically just be us. But they make it very clear that that is only a contingency. Those Avatar bodies were originally meant for those Marines stationed on Pandora because, hey, guess if the scientists can use them, why don't we just fucking use them too? That's pretty logical. And I thought it was great. The new human settlement that came to Pandora, like I said, they came to take over. They fucking glassed the planet, practically Covenant style, when they arrived, taking out half the fucking forest. They're there to stay, and they have raised the stakes. And much to my surprise, fucking Edie Falco, Mrs. Soprano, is the new general leading the pack. And I was like, hey, that's great fucking casting choice. Good job, James Cameron. She's the new general, and she kind of brings Quaritch up to speed on what's going on, what Jake's been doing, and how they've been having a hard time, because he's leading the Na'vi, and he knows how the humans fight. And it's good stuff. And then Quaritch and his team of new Marine, Na'vi, Avatar, bodies, form a posse, and they basically go to hunt down and track down Jake. Now let's talk about Kiri, because this is someone I wanted to talk about a lot. She's Sigourney Weaver's character, and like I said, this confused me in the trailers. I was like, how the hell does she come back? That's still very much a mystery, but my theory in how this is implied is she's essentially, very much inspired by, the virgin birth Jesus, and she's essentially Grace reincarnated and given birth from, the womb of Grace's old Avatar body. What happened in the first Avatar film, Grace puts her personality into Awa, but Awa does not put the personality directly into the Avatar body like what happened with Jake. Grace was too weak. She died before it could be completed, but her personality and her essence did go into Awa. My theory is that Awa essentially couldn't put Grace's personality directly into the Avatar body. So what she instead did was chose to reincarnate Grace as a baby in the Avatar body's womb, along with some of her own essence. Because it's very clear throughout the movie that Kiri has a very direct connection to Awa, more so than any other Na'vi, and she can even manipulate more nature than any other Na'vi can. Like, Jake and Neytiri can command beasts and fish and birds and all that shit. But she can command pretty much anything she desires. Granted, she can't, do what Awa did at the end of the first Avatar movie yet, but she can do a lot. And she starts to realize just how much by the end of the film. Now, again, this isn't really fleshed out, and again, this is mainly just a theory of mine. But, again, I thought it was one of the more interesting parts of the movie, and again, due to some of the pacing problems I felt the film had, I really felt it was a missed opportunity that this wasn't fleshed out more. But, at the same time, I do appreciate the mystery elements, and I do like the religious implications. People are going to say, it's just Jesus! Dude, some of the best fucking stories are based on religion, and religious myths and shit, so who fucking cares? But again, that's just a theory of mine, and I found it to be one of the more interesting parts of Avatar: The Way of Water, and I really wish we got that more fleshed out, but I do look forward to seeing where that goes, because it is clearly going somewhere. And like I said, Cameron knows this world better than anyone. What the fuck's he going to do with it? But now let's talk about the other members of the family. You have Jake's eldest, Natayan, and you have Noach, who's the middle child and kind of the rebellious son of Jake's, whereas Natayan is the more, obedient, golden son who does whatever the hell his father tells him to. He's basically the dream son of a Marine who takes orders without question and whatnot. And I honestly liked how the two progressed throughout the movie. They had each other's backs, but they did have some turmoil because one resented the other, and the other one was like, no, dude, come on, we're brothers, don't be like that. And he's like, I can't help it. I'm always going to be the disappointment. You're always going to be his favorite. But at the same time, what they didn't realize, and was made very clear to the audience, is that yes, they are different, but they both represent a part of their father. Jake is a Marine, and he does follow orders, and he knows his duty, and he's taught that to his eldest son. But Jake is also a rebel. If he wasn't a rebel, he wouldn't have fucking rebelled against humanity and sided with the Na'vi. And that's a trait that his middle child son also has. Granted, what his middle child does in the movie is completely different and in no way comparable, but it's the same inner nature that drives him to do certain actions. Also, one character I forgot to talk about was Spider, who was a bit of a weird kind of addition in the trailers. Like, what the hell is this random human Tarzan looking motherfucker doing out with Jake and his family? Turns out, and I didn't see this coming, he is the actual son of Miles Quaritch before Jake and Neytiri killed him at the end of the first Avatar movie. He had a son on Pandora. Who his mother is a mystery. Granted, it's not really necessary to know, but hey, he has a mother. Maybe she died in the battle? I don't know. But there was an infant left behind on Pandora, or Jake made them leave him behind, because you can't actually cryo-sleep infants and transport them across the galaxy. It's too dangerous. He probably would have died. So they kept him on Pandora and they looked after him, and Jake brought him in as an adopted son. I thought that was a pretty interesting idea, very clever. I didn't see that one coming, and I thought it added a lot more to the family dynamic. It's not just about blood. It's not about blood, it's about bonds. Some bonds do go deeper than blood. I'm sure many in the comments will agree with me there. But yeah, he's captured early on, and he forms kind of a bond with Quaritch, kind of not. It's pretty evident Quaritch is just using him, but he does have that inner father nature that is drawing him to Spider, that he can't really comprehend or make sense of just yet. Spider despises his father, but at the same time, by the end of the film, does acknowledge the fact that it is his father. There is one part that really kind of annoyed me, is basically how Quaritch lives at the end, which, he should have been dead, he should have drowned, but, Cameron, and this is, I'll criticize Cameron for this, he's made it clear that Quaritch is going to be in all 3 fucking Avatar movies, maybe even the 4th and 5th, so of course I didn't expect Quaritch to die, and I really wish fucking film studios and directors would stop fucking putting out their casting choices prematurely. At least Edie Falco was a surprise, but hey, at the very least, when I saw that happen, I was just like, yep, of course, he's got to live, because, maybe if I didn't know that information, I would have been more pissed off, but yeah, I did find that to be quite bullshit, but whatever. I am happy, though, that the original Quaritch is actually dead, and they didn't bring him back to life. They just made a clone, essentially, which, is fine. I'm actually okay with that. Before we move on to the final act of the movie, I wanted to briefly discuss the whales of Pandora and how they're linked to the plot. Now, I was originally under the belief that the entire Avatar sequel was going to be dedicated to preaching about whales and death to whales, and how there's apparently unobtainium in their brains, and granted, this was the same douchebag that said that this movie had poor dialogue, which again, I have no idea what the fuck movie that fool watched. I'm guessing he was referring to the Sully kids, and this is despite the glaringly obvious fact that Jake's children have simply adopted the mannerisms of their father, which is why they talk the way they do. And based on what I also saw from the film, it seems that same person also very much exaggerated the whaling aspect of the movie. Like I said, the humans came back to Pandora to take it over. They could still, but apparently aren't, mining unobtainium anymore, or at least not primarily, because they aren't interested in saving Earth anymore. They're trying to turn Pandora into the new Earth. And now they have made a much stronger colony. Before it was just a mining outpost, now it's a full-fledged fucking mini-city. And with their interest shifting away from unobtainium, they've now turned their focus to other resources on Pandora, and one of those resources is this special liquid that resides within the brains of the Pandora whales. And this liquid apparently has the means to stop human aging. I know it sounds like a pretty out there idea, but I found it interesting. And of course, if this resource can stop human aging, it is hence incredibly valuable, and now humans are using this resource as the primary means of funding their colony on Pandora. Now, what initially baffled me, and what some might criticize, is that a vial of whale brain fluid is worth $80 million, whereas unobtainium is worth $20 million a kilo. Now, if you do the math, the unobtainium should yield greater profits, so I initially considered this a flaw, but having given it some thought, I realized it would be far more expensive to start a whole mining operation as opposed to hunting down the whales instead. It's essentially less work for greater return, and when you consider just how untouched the Pandora ecosystem is, there's plenty of those fuckers to hunt. But not only that, again, humanity has shifted their goal away from unobtainium, which was supposedly being used so that Earth would survive. If that's no longer their end game, then they don't really need the unobtainium now, do they? And the fact that they've gone after this new resource also shows their goals have changed for what humanity is driving towards. However, their impact on Pandora, much like in the first movie, will be ultimately the same. And so this aspect of the movie essentially sends the same message, that excessive exploitation of the planet's resources will destroy Pandora and humanity will be doomed to repeat its own history, but this time at the cost of these natives who have lived harmoniously with nature for countless years. But while the same, or at least a similar message, is being shown here, the whales aren't really the centerpiece of the story as I was originally led to believe. Instead, the whole whale aspect of the plot is more of a means to an end, since Quaritch was only terrorizing the whales and the island natives to try and lure out Jake Sully and the Sully family, and that is ultimately the end goal for Quaritch's plan. He couldn't give two shits about the whales, and I'm sure the purpose behind what humanity's true intentions for this newly found resource on Pandora will be shall be revealed in the third Avatar installment. But the true forefront of this story is the importance of family and sticking together to stay alive, and it's much more personal than the original Avatar since Quaritch is hell-bent on revenge this time round. Which brings me to the final act of the movie, which, after an outstanding battle sequence, by the way, holy fucking shit, the Sully family is crippled by the horror of losing Jake's eldest son, Natayan, which I honestly didn't think that Cameron would go all the way with that, but it is James Cameron. Like, I could kind of see something maybe happening to one of the children throughout the movie. But again, I forgot, James Cameron isn't your typical film studio play it safe kind of guy. He actually killed off one of the Sully children. And I was like, shit, alright. And that brought a lot to Jake and Neytiri in the final act. Like, now you could tell they were out for blood. Jake and Neytiri especially flips the fuck out. Matriarch takes the fuck over and she just goes nuts and essentially was just on a complete killing spree. Jake was awesome, but Zoe Saldana really sold the shit out of Neytiri's pain. Gotta give her props for that. And yeah, the Titanic sequence at the end was fucking banger. Loved every fucking second of it. And it made for a really good climax and action scene. The battle scenes were great too. The way they fucking pop out of the water, do like a dolphin spin and shoot an arrow and take someone off their fucking boat or, you know, take out a chopper that way. That was dope as fuck. And yeah, that was Avatar: The Way of Water. Was it better than the first Avatar movie? Again, like I said, I do prefer the first Avatar, but I'm a massive nut for the first Avatar. This movie narrowly misses the mark in my eyes, but it did do a lot of things substantially better. Mostly superficial things, but I thought some of the character stuff worked a little bit better too. But then again, I never had a problem with the first Avatar's characters. None whatsoever. I thought it was all great. Pacing-wise, I definitely got to give it to the first Avatar. As well as how focused that story was, it was simple by design. Criticizing Avatar for being simple is like criticizing a wheel for being round. You're criticizing it for what it was designed to be. Simple in story, simple in nature, easy enough to gravitate to, whilst not interfering with bringing you into this world. Cameron wanted to tell a simple story with the first Avatar, a simple focused story that was easy enough to digest, enthrall you, but not take away from the world and the experience of bringing you into it, whereas a story that was a little more convoluted might. In my opinion, Cameron found the perfect balance between character and world with his first Avatar movie. In The Way of Water, I think there were instances where he did better with the character stuff, and there were instances where he did better with the world stuff, but I think he didn't find the same balance. The same balance that I personally thought was damn near flawless in the first Avatar film. And so, while I still like the story a lot, and I think it was a great story in Avatar: The Way of Water, it was more about family and, you know, bonds and all that stuff. It was a little bit less focused, and it didn't give as much of a well-rounded look at everything as the first Avatar did. I would love to see what Cameron has for The Way of Water Special Edition, because he cut a lot out of the first Avatar movie, and the Special Edition for Avatar 2009 is fucking gangbusters. But that being said, the theatrical cut for The Way of Water was fucking phenomenal, and I loved most every fucking bit of it. Does it have a few contrivances? Yes, absolutely. Are some of the world intricacies and character mystery elements a little bit too vague and need more nuance? Probably. But all in all, I thought it was a great second installment, a banger fucking installment to a movie that was made 13 years ago, that was hyped 13 years for this fucking movie, and James Cameron has delivered once again. I loved The Way of Water. I can't wait to see it again. And yeah, that's basically what I got to say on the matter, guys. This review was entirely off the cuff. This is me directly out of the theater. If I got the odd detail wrong, I apologize. If I missed a detail, or if I forgot to talk about something, I also apologize, alright? I feel like Jake Sully, after being fucking plugged 10 hours into his avatar body, giving a fucking video log for you guys to listen to, and I'm fucking knackered at the moment. But, you know, this is the best I could do off the cuff. Hope you enjoyed it. let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks very much for listening. I appreciate your time as always. Thank you all for being legends and watching this video to the end of its runtime. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you next time.